The day the werewolf I'd raised for a decade defied me for an illegitimate girl, I had him lashed 88 times. As the lashes fell, the comments flooding my live stream turned into chaos. She's lost her mind. Is she seriously doing this out of jealousy? That's not love. That's cruelty. She's treating him like an animal. No wonder he ran to save the other girl. Who would stay with someone like her? Jealousy? Threatening him? I almost laughed. He was nothing but a traitorous beast. I gave the order for his belongings to be tossed out. Then, without another word, I went straight to the fighting pits and picked out a new wolf hybrid. 2 weeks later, he found out. He came to me through the pouring rain, fresh from the girl's apartment, eyes wild and full of pain. He grabbed my arm and demanded, "Tell me it isn't true. You didn't replace me, did you?" When I first brought the bloodied young wolf home, the entire villa went silent. No one had believed me. They thought my threat was empty. The butler nearly dropped a vase when he saw the creature at my side. "Where should we keep him, my lady?" I gave him a sharp look. "Next to my room, of course." He hesitated. "And the old room's belongings?" "Throw them all out," I said, my voice cold enough to freeze the air. Everyone in the estate already knew the story. The wolf I'd raised for 10 years had betrayed me for the illegitimate daughter of my father. When the two of us fell into the river, he didn't even look back before swimming toward her. That night, I'd punished him myself. 88 lashes across his back. He hadn't made a single sound, even as blood dripped to the floor. "Speak," I'd ordered, my palm throbbing from the whip. He lifted his head at last, his eyes dark and hollow. "Speak? About what, my lady?" His tone was calm, almost mocking. "You bought my life, rebuilt my body, branded your rules into my skin. What's the problem? The pet you trained no longer obeys you, and that hurts your pride." His words were knives, and yet he smiled. I'd created him. I'd taught him loyalty, discipline, strength. And now he stood there defending her, the pathetic little girl trying to steal what was rightfully mine. The night felt endless, the silence between us suffocating. He tilted his head and said quietly, "You have everyone in this world to love you. She has no one." My lips curled. "And that makes you her savior?" He didn't hesitate. "She only has me." For a long time, I just stared at him, disbelief and fury twisting inside me. "You'd rather be her dog?" I asked at last. "Then so be it." I took him myself to the girl's shabby apartment, shoving him out into the rain. His clothes were soaked in blood, but he didn't look back. He just limped away under the flickering streetlights, head high, his pride intact even in ruin. They say once bitten, twice shy, yet no one expected me to return for another wolf whelp. At the underground fighting pit, the owner paraded row after row of beastmen before me. Each one I inspected, but none met my standards. Frustrated, I turned to leave. As I rounded a damp, shadowed corridor, a bloodied hand shot out from a cage, gripping my boot. I looked down. I'd seen countless beasts at death's door, screaming, begging, or frozen in terror. But this one was different. In the dim, flickering light, his black eyes burned with determination, clear and unbroken. He silently pledged himself to me. All he asked was a scrap of food. The tag on his cage read, "Reject." The pit owner nearby broke into a nervous sweat. I raised a hand to stop him, then slowly removed my black leather glove and crouched down. A single beam of light fell on my fingertips as I tipped his chin up, studying him. He was beaten, bleeding, barely clinging to life. Yet his gaze never wavered. After a tense, endless moment, I arched an eyebrow. "You'll come with me?" His ears shot up. His tail wagged like a wild puppy's. A fierce fire lit his eyes as he nuzzled my wrist, repeating his silent vow, loyal, obedient, unwavering. I glanced at the sweating owner. "He'll do." I hadn't planned to keep him. He was a reject, and I expected him to fail under my brutal training. When his wounds had mostly healed, I told him, "You can leave." He stared, stormy emotion in his dark eyes. "Why?" I flipped a page of my newspaper casually. "No reason. Consider it an act of charity." The butler leaned in, whispering, "Our Lady only keeps the strongest, most loyal beastmen. Don't get your hopes up." The last one was sent away overnight after 10 years of service for disloyalty. She didn't even blink. Before the words finished, the young beast man had vanished. He returned moments later, out of breath, eyes blazing. "Give me a chance to be better than him." I finally looked up. "Better in what way?" In every way, he said, fists clenched, voice fierce. Strength, loyalty, precision. He would surpass his predecessor in every measure. I set down the newspaper, examining him properly. Cleaned up, he was sharp and aggressive, but a subtle vulnerability softened the edges. His stubborn, unyielding gaze from the pit still burned brightly. That was why I'd chosen him. After a long silence, I spoke. Very well. If you can survive it. My training methods were ruthless. Previous recruits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 had all failed. He was the ninth. The name Kai was only a designation. It carried no special weight beyond my family name, yet he accepted it with solemn respect. I hadn't planned to push him hard at first, but his potential was extraordinary. Within a week, he completed the basic drills and demanded more. Perhaps the label reject had been wrong. At dusk, he finished a 60-mile mountain run carrying 200 pounds. Muscles quivered, sweat soaked his skin, but he pressed on, firing every shot perfectly. This was his third attempt. I leaned against the SUV window, hand on the frame, speaking on the phone, yet my gaze never left him. Sensing my eyes, he glanced back. Our eyes met across the slope as he ran toward me, the setting sun painting his damp hair gold. His neck glistened with a drop of sweat. The call had been from my father, inviting me to a gala and asking me to forgive his illegitimate daughter. Laughable. A once ruthless man, now sentimental. I replied briefly and ended the call. My lady, he panted, coming to a stop before me. I noticed this was his routine, running to me each evening, gasping but relentless. I teased gently. What's the rush? I feared you'd grow bored waiting, he admitted. I paused, key in hand. Get in. No boredom here. He buckled in, finally letting the words he'd held back slip out. It only took 6 hours today, and I didn't miss a single shot. He didn't need to report to me. Data from sensors recorded every stat. Reaction time, precision, endurance. His performance had already surpassed Lucian's record of 7 hours and 3 minutes, and in only a week. The comment section erupted. No way this new Beastman is stronger than the main male lead. Did everyone forget this is a polyamory story? Stronger wolves are normal. Once he sees her true colors, he'll be in our heroine's arms. Poor little wolf. All that effort, and he only gets cold hms. I ignored the chatter, mostly. The last comment lingered. Was he asking for praise? The city lights bled into the golden haze of dusk, washing over the gridlocked overpass as I drove. I found my gaze drifting toward the passenger seat. His ears drooped slightly. His lips were pressed thin, his focus locked on the faint bloodstains on his training clothes. I rehearsed the words in my head several times before saying his name. He looked up, lashes trembling in the glow of the setting sun. Half his face was caught in the warm light, softening the fierce, wild air he usually carried. Damn it. The words were right there, but I couldn't get them out. I opened my mouth, closed it, then tried again. Take tomorrow off, I finally said, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. It wasn't exactly praise, but it was concern. That should count for something, shouldn't it? After a brief pause, he shook his head. I'm fine. I can keep training. My eyes lowered to the blood trickling down his calves. Fine? I frowned. The live comment feed scrolled furiously across my vision. He thinks he failed. Poor little wolf, he's trying to prove he's still worth keeping. He's terrified she'll throw him away, like the last one. Someone please hug him. This villain's heart is made of stone. Maybe it's not her fault. Some people never learned how to love, so they show it the only way they know, through control. Stop defending her. She's twisted, and he's suffering for it. I ignored the argument. My gaze stayed fixed on Kai. The last rays of sunset stretched across his skin, turning the streaks of blood at his neck into something strangely beautiful. The sky behind him burned with color. He could feel me watching. His hands tightened, his heartbeat quickened, his ears turned crimson. Just as he lowered his head, I spoke. You did well today. He froze mid-motion. So, I added, you get tomorrow off. Consider it your reward. The traffic finally began to move again. Not everyone is born knowing how to love. But I didn't mind learning, especially for the wolf I was raising with my own hands. A week later, I kept my promise and attended the gala. It was the night my father planned to publicly acknowledge his illegitimate daughter. Lily stood on the stage, delicate and trembling under the chandeliers, her ornate gown nearly swallowing her whole. Behind her stood Lucian, poised, proud, protective. Our eyes met across the room. His were cold. I looked away, only to meet Lily's gaze. Wide, innocent, and gleaming with smug triumph. Her look said everything. See? The werewolf, my father, the world, they're all mine now. The comment stream exploded. He looks so much happier now that he's free from her. Finally, the pure-hearted heroine and her loyal knight together. Look at the villainess's face. She's about to snap. Ha! I almost laughed.
About to?
That stage had passed long ago. My father had always feared me. To him, I was ruthless and unyielding, the kind of monster who would smile at his funeral. But his fear wasn't misplaced. Long before his confession, I'd already uncovered his hidden family, his scattered bastards. Lily was merely the prettiest pawn he chose to parade in public, hoping to mend his image with a show of remorse. And if I so much as frowned at her, he knew how it would look. The press would paint me as cruel, jealous, heartless. He expected me to skip the gala out of pride. Instead, I arrived early. And when I reached them, I smiled sweetly. Sister. The crowd erupted in whispers. I thought Alistair, Thorne was faithful. Guess even old wolves stray eventually. Poor heiress. The Beastman she raised for 10 years handed over to the new girl. No wonder she's furious. Furious? Hardly. I moved through the room with effortless grace, exchanging polite greetings. But from across the ballroom, I could feel his eyes, burning, relentless. A thunderstorm rolled in. Lightning split the sky, followed by thunder that shook the chandeliers. Lucian instantly pulled Lily close, covering her ears. Don't be afraid, he murmured. Another rumble rolled through the air. I thought of Kai back home. His behavior earlier had been off, unusually restless. Lily's nervous voice cut through my thoughts. You used to be my sister's Beastman, she said softly. Shouldn't you go protect her? Lucian's expression hardened. She doesn't need me. But she looks so upset. It's my fault, isn't it? Maybe if I apologize. It's not your fault, he interrupted. Both of them turned toward me. Lucian's voice carried across the silence. My lady always has her reasons. Since this was her choice, there's nothing left for me to say. The performance continued, their false sincerity filling the room. Then the butler rushed in, pale and frantic. My lady. It's Kai, he's gone into heat. The doctor says he's allergic to the suppressant. If he's not calmed soon, he could die. A chill ran through me. I turned to leave. But before I could take a step, a hand clamped around my arm. Lucian. His eyes were wild. You got a new Beastman, he rasped. Lily flinched, glancing between us. I laughed, cold and sharp, and slapped him. Go back to your mistress. The slap wasn't hard enough. His grip tightened, nails biting into my skin. Arabella, you promised me, he choked out. You said I was the only one. Why? His voice broke. How could you replace me so easily? I met his eyes, smiling without warmth. And you, Lucian? Didn't you replace me first? His breath hitched. You're the one who threw me away that night. My laughter was bitter and sharp as glass. Did I not give you a choice? That night, after I dragged him to Lily's doorstep, I waited. A full 60 seconds. One last chance. He could have turned back, said he was sorry, begged to stay. But even bleeding and limping, he walked away without looking back. I had gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. Then, in the final 3 seconds, I looked away, pressed the accelerator, and vanished into the night. When he finally turned around, I was already gone. The drive back from the gala took longer than expected. Rain soaked through my clothes, but I didn't care. I listened to the doctor's urgent report and headed upstairs. Even from outside the door, the air was thick with the wild, metallic scent of blood and heat. I pushed the door open. Kai was curled under the blanket, trembling uncontrollably, his wolf ears and tail visible. His breathing was ragged, pained. When I stepped closer, his ears twitched violently, his body flinching at every sound. Kai, I said, my voice firm, come out. No, he whispered, his tone broken. Please stay away. He was fighting it, the pull of his instincts, but losing ground fast. I hesitated for a moment, then reached out and brushed a hand through his damp hair. His body jolted like he'd been struck by lightning. Outside, thunder cracked across the sky. The next instant, Kai moved on instinct, cornering me against the wall. His eyes had gone bright, his pupils dilated and unfocused. He wasn't thinking anymore, his body was ruled entirely by instinct. "Calm down," I ordered quietly. But his whole frame trembled, caught between restraint and desperation. His head dropped to my shoulder, his breath hot and uneven. The tension in him was unbearable. I placed a steady hand on his neck and murmured, "It's all right. I'm here." His shaking slowed slightly. His breathing grew steadier, though his pulse still raced beneath my fingertips. I stayed that way for a long while, grounding him, until his strength finally gave out and he slumped against me, exhausted. The storm outside had passed by the time he drifted into sleep. The moon hung low, its light spilling through the curtains and painting the room in silver. Kai's breathing was quiet now, his head resting on my lap. My hand absent-mindedly brushed his hair, tracing the faint scars on his back, marks of years spent in harsh training. I found myself asking softly, "When it hurts, have you ever thought of leaving?" His eyelids fluttered, and though he was half asleep, his voice was clear. "Never." I looked at him, and for a fleeting second, something unspoken stirred inside me. But I reminded myself, loyalty from a Beastman never lasts forever. It survives only until something stronger replaces it. I'd seen that truth play out too many times to believe otherwise. Still, that night, as the moonlight glowed against his pale skin, I wondered if this one might be different. Years later, when I stood beneath the same moon alone, I would realize he had meant every word. From the very start, that wolf had decided to devote everything to me. A werewolf's recovery took time, especially with his condition. Since Kai couldn't handle suppressants, I stayed at the villa, managing my business remotely while keeping an eye on him. When I wasn't by his side, I buried myself in paperwork, mostly the investigation reports on Lily. Her birth date was a quiet confession of my father's betrayal. She had been born before my mother's breakdown, proof that his vows of eternal devotion had already been lies. I sighed and leaned back, rubbing my temples. Every time I saw Lily's tearful eyes, that fragile voice trembling with righteousness, I saw my mother. They both shared that same naive belief, that love could fix everything, that gentleness could win loyalty, that suffering would be rewarded with kindness. But the world didn't work that way. My father was a man obsessed with appearances. Even after destroying my mother, he paraded his reputation as a faithful husband. Meanwhile, his hidden children lived quietly in the shadows. And among them, Lily was his most convenient pawn. The perfect picture of innocence. Easy to control. Uncovering Lily's past had been effortless. She had been using the Thorne family name to get by, running up debts and drawing the attention of dangerous associates. Nothing too deep, but enough to be dangerous if exposed. Within days, news of the Thorne family's illegitimate daughter spread across headlines. Alistair, of course, knew it was my doing, but he allowed it. Every blow against Lily reinforced his plan, to justify stripping me of my inheritance. I froze all her bank accounts. Creditors hounded her. Her fragile state was obvious to anyone watching the unfolding family drama. Everyone, that is, except Lucian. He couldn't endure it. One stormy night, he appeared at my door, urgent and pleading. "She doesn't understand. She can't handle this," he said, his posture proud even as his voice carried desperation. I smiled coldly. "Not like me, you say?" Yes, she was naive and innocent. I was calculating and ruthless. "So, what do you want?" I asked. "I want you to stop. Give her a way out," he said. I leaned down, pressing a heel lightly to his shoulder. "Lucian, by what authority are you giving me orders?" His eyes blazed as he replied, "If you spare her, I'll return to you." I laughed. Return? And why would I want a sullied dog? I had trained him for 10 years, endured every test, every hardship, to mold him into the ultimate Beastman. And yet, Lily's arrival proved I had never truly tamed him. His shoulders shook under my gaze, his defiance intact. "A new wolf," he muttered, "wouldn't meet your standards. You'd never have the patience." I pressed my advantage, voice low and measured. "I'm content with the new Beastman. He's loyal, young, and devoted to a single master, unlike you, Lucian." The villa was silent, almost unnervingly so. Lucian stood frozen, a flush creeping across his controlled expression. His hands trembled slightly, as if trying to grasp the impossibility of the situation. He realized his position had shifted. The person who thrived on conquest had rejected him entirely, crushing him with words more cutting than any weapon. The butler, Keeping a neutral expression, whispered, "My lady, Kai is entering heat again." I ignored Lucian, turning upstairs without another glance. It wasn't until he noticed that all his belongings were gone. Every keepsake, every token of his time here. The locket, the plants he had cared for, the familiar scratches on the walls, vanished. The room that had once been his sanctuary now belonged to someone else. Lucian's panic mounted. He struggled, but the guards moved him aside. The reality hit him as the door closed with a firm click. I no longer wanted him. Meanwhile, Lily's debts and the media frenzy weakened the Thorn Group. Several key partners paused contracts. I proposed a solution to remove the source of the disruption. Alistair had no choice but to publicly disown Lily, forcing her to handle her personal problems alone. Just as he thought he could use this moment to revoke my inheritance, I played a video at the shareholder meeting. Grainy footage, shaky and old. It showed him confessing, in his own voice, to his affairs and mistreatment of my mother. Recorded by me as a child, it was irrefutable proof of his duplicity. I had spent over 20 years preparing for this. Lily's arrival had been an unexpected spark, but it became the perfect opportunity to strike. Holding the one thing he valued most, his dignity, I gave him the choice. Either the evidence goes public, revealing your secrets and illegitimate children, or you resign and transfer control of the Thorn Group to me. You may keep a symbolic title and a retirement allowance, but I take full power. Alistair laughed shakily, his hands trembling. Clever, calculating, willing to sacrifice family. I learned from the best, I replied calmly. Although I now controlled the Thorn Group, Alistair had ruled for decades, and many employees were still loyal to him. I needed a reason to eliminate opposition. VP Vance provided the perfect opportunity, hosting a dinner under the guise of celebrating the new chairman. My plan was simple: prove someone had tampered with my drink and expose the conspirators. The butler had prepared a harmless but convincing mock poison. I would pretend to sip it and then reveal the plot. But when the drinks arrived, my glass had been swapped for 2 specialty cocktails. Vance grinned triumphantly, offering a toast. I stayed composed, pointing to the glass. Vance and his cohorts laughed. "Still don't trust us, new chairman?" he mocked. Kai, standing behind me, noted a subtle, unusual scent. The butler whispered through my earpiece. Both drinks had been spiked with an aphrodisiac, meant to humiliate me publicly. I lifted the glass to my lips, but Kai calmly intercepted it. "My lady is delicate," he announced, draining the drink himself. Within seconds, his face flushed unnaturally. I feigned worry as the butler examined him, then declared loudly, "Someone is attempting to harm the new chairman." The room erupted into chaos, and the trap had been turned against the conspirators. The butler stayed to manage the aftermath, while I brought Kai back to the villa. He was exhausted, eyes damp and clouded, skin flushed. Yet he allowed me to care for him, compliant and submissive. His body craved attention, but he asked only through subtle gestures. I teased him lightly. "Did you know what was in that drink?" He buried his face in my neck, muffled affirmation escaping him. I traced my fingers along his neck, feeling the tension in his muscles. "Where do you want to kiss?" I asked. "On the lips," he whispered, eyes shy but steadfast. I blocked him gently. "What if one day someone treats you better than me? Will your heart follow them?" His gaze never wavered. "Kai will always be loyal to my lady." He leaned up, finally meeting my lips in a soft, innocent kiss. His tail, once restless, curled obediently around my waist. Moonlight spilled over us, a quiet testament to his loyalty and trust. Epilogue. 10 years had passed. In the first decade, I had trained a beastman who betrayed me. In the second, fate led me to rescue a young, bloodied wolf cub. The third decade brought nightmares. Alistair had conspired with loyalists to eliminate me. On an ordinary day, a black sedan sped toward us. Kai acted without hesitation, shielding me from bullets and glass. Even as he bled, he continued to protect me, standing as a final line between me and danger. In his last moments, he smiled faintly, tail wagging weakly, a mirror of the first day we had met in the fighting pits. He had kept his promise. Now the training grounds lay overgrown, abandoned. The butler asked if I wished to train another beastman. I did not respond. For the first time, I understood true loyalty, selfless, unwavering, and fulfilled with one life given entirely. Under the setting sun, I sat alone in my SUV, staring at the empty field. In my mind, I saw the little wolf running toward me, eyes shining only for me, scent of pine in the wind. Perhaps it was memory. Perhaps he still watched over me, just as he had promised, never leaving his lady.